Hi, my name is Xavier DeRoos, live in Aventura, Florida, and this is my 45-gallon tank, Just the Tip. I call this tank Just the Tip because the central point of the aquascape up at the top over there sticks out of the water at just a little bit out of the water. The tank is designed centrally around the quintessential mixed reef, where we have softies, LPS, SPS, and non-photosynthetic corals, which are my personal favorite. And I think that there are many categories of corals, and I've tried to include a lot of them, but there's always room for a couple more. I started the tank because I moved to Florida from California, and as a real addict would know, you can't have a home without a reef tank. So this was our big project. My roommate and I got matching tanks, and we put them side by side in order to fill the living room with our different ideas of the reef keeping hobby and what to stock a tank with. I wanted to lay out a couple of ideas as far as the aquascaping, and I knew that I wanted a coral atoll, kind of like a separate island, which is what I designed with the sun corals and the dendrophilia. But I wasn't sure what to do with the actual main aquascape, so I designed just a little bit of the rockwork out of the water, just to include areas for the intertidal species such as the hermit crabs and the snails to catch a break, as they would naturally. So the tank is not very big. That was a reality that I had to face early in the design stages, and at being only 3 feet and 12 inches tall, I realized that I was going to have to compartmentalize a lot of the corals. So a lot of the LPS that have a stronger sting are going to have to go together, whereas I can put the zoanthids and the protopalithoas together as well, and to create sections of the rockwork that won't harm one another and will get along. So Gorgonians are a very important part of the aquarium for me. I like the height that they provide. I like that they sway in the water movement. I also like that it's just something different. You don't see a lot of Gorgonians in aquariums. So for me, that was an important part of doing my aquarium and incorporating that into my livestock choices. Fortunately, we live in southern Florida, where there's a lot of Gorgonians that are legally collectible and easily obtainable in shallow water, that I could incorporate in my tank. My roommate's tank is also full with a lot of the endemic Gorgonians. My girlfriend's seahorse tank is almost chock full of them. They're a nice addition that I think a lot of aquariums could be benefited from, and I incorporated a couple of species in my tank here. You can see the sea fan behind me, and as well as there's a golden rod Gorgonian that we collected. I haven't seen another one yet, except for the one colony that we found. But some cool options for something that's a little bit different. I'm a big proponent of feeding. I, by all accounts, would say that I heavily overfeed my tank. I put about 5 cubes of frozen food, or the equivalent of that, in my tank every day, and it being only 45 gallons, that means that nutrient export is also very important. I have a skimmer that's rated for 3 times the tank volume to help with that and to keep up on the phosphates. But I do also believe in having a little bit higher levels of phosphate and nitrate in your system, because my tank, being a mixed reef, needs that for a lot of the softies and the LPS, as well as the non-photosynthetic corals need to have almost a constant supply of food. Otherwise, they just slowly starve, since they're not getting that extra food energy from the photosynthetic algae like the photosynthetic corals are. I'm a big proponent of just giving a variety of food rather than any one staple product. It seems to have the best effect with coral health long term. So I definitely say feed your tank if you can, and if you can't, get a skimmer so that you can, and get a big one. I do have one coral in particular that I'm very proud to own. It's a blastomussa, but it's an unidentified species of blastomussa. They're they're working on figuring out a name for it. It grows like a Blastomussa welsii in the size of the polyps and the colonial nature of that, but the stalks tend to grow more like off of a branch, like the Blastomussa merletti. So it's kind of a weird hybrid that I've not seen anywhere else. I think myself, Julian Sprung, and there are maybe 5 or 6 other people in the country that own a piece of it, and I've been fortunate to share it with a couple other people as well, just to get kind of that extra security of having a new species in a couple other tanks in case, unfortunately, knock on wood, there is a tank meltdown or anything like that. So that's a cool coral and one of my favorites for sure. The tank is illuminated by a 6-bulb T5 fixture. I've found that it's my favorite source of light as far as the accessibility of changing out bulbs and finding a spectrum that fits well to cover a lot of the photosynthetic needs of corals. The Skimmer is a eShop's S150, rated for 150 gallons, which is by all means overrated for this size system, but I don't really believe that you can overskim unless you go way overboard. So with the amount of food that I put in this tank, it was necessary to beef up the Skimmer. I also have 2 of the Two Little Fishes 150 reactors, media reactors. One is running purigen and carbon, and the other one has a phosphate and carbon mixture in that one as well. It's toned down through 2 different valves and then returns into my frag section of the sump, where I keep a lot of the zoanthid frags that have overgrown the tank and that I'm rehabilitating. The return pump is a J-Bow 3000. I really like that return pump because it's a DC pump, which means that it's using very little electricity while providing a high amount of gallons per hour returned through the system. Pretty much silent. You would have to get pretty close up to the sump section to hear the difference between the Skimmer pump and the return pump, which is something that was very important for me because I don't like a lot of noise coming from under the stand. So that's what I have as far as a flow return into the tank and my filtration in the sump. So the idea behind an algae turf scrubber is to provide an area that is more than optimal for algae to grow. That allows it to grow in the area that you want, being the algae turf scrubber, rather than in your display tank where it becomes a problemsome with a lot of the corals. So the algae is actually a good thing, and it becomes a filter because it uses ammonia, nitrites, and phosphates to grow and further its production, while removing it from the water column that you have in your display tank and through the refugium. So it's very inexpensive. It's very easy to make. There are multiple do-it-yourself manuals online, as well as you can buy them, and they really help your whole tank out because they don't remove a lot of the food and the proteins like protein skimmers do. They only take the nutrients out of the water once they've broken down into ammonia, phosphate, or nitrate. So definitely something I think that is underutilized in the aquarium industry, and a lot of reefers can add on to their systems as extra filtration, and they'll see a lot of their algae issues go away. Again, my name is Xavier DeRoos, and this is my 45-gallon. I wanted to thank you guys for taking a look at the video, and if you have any other questions, feel free to respond to my thread. I will love to answer them for you. Have a great day.